Close your eyes for a second. I want you to imagine you are holding a mirror. It's a beautiful mirror, framed in gold. But when you look into it, you don't see your own face. You see his. You see his smile, his moods, his mistakes, his distance. You've been carrying this mirror around for months, maybe years. Your arms are tired, your back is aching, but you're afraid to put it down because you think if you stop looking at him, he'll truly disappear. Now imagine he's standing across from you. He's looking at you, but he's not looking at you. He's looking at his own reflection in that mirror you're holding. He sees how much you care. He sees your pain. He sees your no contact as a countdown, a timer he knows will eventually go off. He feels safe because he still owns the mirror. What if I told you that the reason he hasn't missed you, the reason he hasn't felt the weight of your absence, is because you haven't actually left? You've stopped texting, sure. You've stopped calling. You've stopped liking his posts. But in the spiritual realm, in the realm of energy and intention, you are still standing right there, holding that mirror, waiting for him to notice that you're trying to be unnoticeable. No contact is a strategy, but transcendence is a shift in your very DNA. Most people use silence as a weapon, hoping it will hurt the other person into coming back. But a weapon still requires a hand to hold it. You are still connected to the battle. Today I want to teach you how to drop the weapon. I want to teach you how to break the mirror. Because the moment you stop reflecting him is the moment he finally has to look at the empty space where you used to be. And that empty space, it's louder than any shout. It's deeper than any ocean. When you go beyond no contact, you don't just stop talking to him. You stop thinking in his direction. You become a ghost to his ego, not because you're hiding, but because you've moved to a higher floor. You've moved to a frequency where his neglect can't reach you. And that is when the shift happens. That is when the unforgettable nature of your soul finally begins to haunt the silence he chose. Stay with me, because in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you how to move from being a strategy to being a statue of strength. So firm in your own peace that the world has no choice but to remember who you were. We often treat no contact like a game of chicken. We're waiting to see who blinks first. We're sitting by our phones, counting the days, thinking on day 30, he'll feel it. On day 60, he'll break. But if you are counting the days, you are still a prisoner of the calendar. You are still living in his timeline. Today, I want to invite you into a deeper truth. If you want to be truly unforgettable, if you want to move beyond the reach of his indifference, you have to stop trying to be remembered. You have to enter the space of the divine disconnect. If you stay with me until the end of this talk, I am going to share the 3 spiritual thresholds you must cross to go beyond no contact. I'm going to show you how to turn your absence from a tactic into a transformation, and why the version of you that he left is the only version he is allowed to keep. The ego of a man who has hurt you or walked away thrives on knowing he still has a tab open in your mind. He can feel the energetic pull of your expectation. But when you apply the law of energetic exchange, you close the tab. You reclaim your light. And suddenly, the room he's standing in goes dark. He won't forget you after this, not because of what you did, but because of who you became in the silence. You aren't just not contacting him, you are outgrowing him. And there is nothing more haunting to a man than the realization that the woman he took for granted has evolved into a realm where he no longer fits. The difference between silence and stillness is the difference between a prison and a palace. We often mistake no contact for a solution because we equate the absence of noise with the presence of peace. We think that by putting down the phone, by blocking the number, or by refusing to type out that long burning message, we have successfully detached. But if your mind is still screaming, if your heart is still racing every time a notification pings, and if you are counting the days of your silence like a prisoner scratching marks into a cell wall, then you aren't actually in a state of power, you are in a state of suppressed noise. Silence is often a strategy, a tactical withdrawal designed to elicit a reaction from the other person. It is a loud, vibrating quiet that still centers him as the protagonist of your story. You are not talking, but you are still talking about not talking in your head. Stillness, however, is a spiritual state of being. It is the moment when the internal storm finally runs out of rain. In stillness, you aren't waiting for a text. You aren't wondering what he's doing. You aren't checking his location or his last seen status. You have moved from the waiting room of the relationship into the sanctuary of your own soul. When you are merely silent, The person who hurt you can still feel your energetic pull. They can sense the tension of your absence. They know the silence is a reaction to them, and therefore they still feel in control of your emotional climate. But when you move into stillness, the energy changes completely. Stillness creates a vacuum that the ego of the other person cannot comprehend. It is the realization that you have stopped reacting entirely. You have become like a deep, clear lake, unmoved by the pebbles he used to throw to get a rise out of you. This is the ultimate pattern interrupt. Most people who ignore you or hurt you are used to your noise. They are used to your chase, your defense, or even your angry silence. But they are not prepared for your stillness. Stillness is untrackable. It is the point where you stop being a variable in his life and start being a constant in your own. This transition requires you to stop viewing no contact as a way to get him back and start viewing it as a way to get you back. Silence is about him. Stillness is about you. In the quiet, you begin to hear the parts of yourself that you silence to make room for his ego. You begin to realize that the void you felt wasn't because he left, but because you had left yourself. Stillness allows the dust to settle so you can finally see the truth of the situation without the fog of desperation. It is the highest form of self-respect. You are telling the universe that your peace is not a negotiation. You are deciding that your life is a sacred space, and anyone who wants to enter must be at the same frequency of peace that you have cultivated. This is how you go beyond the strategy of no contact. You aren't just not calling. You are no longer interested in the conversation. You aren't avoiding him. You are simply occupied with your own divinity. The person who ignored you will eventually feel this shift. They will realize that the line is no longer just busy, it has been disconnected. And while they are left wondering what happened to the person who used to care so much, you are already miles away, anchored in a quiet strength that no one can take from you. You have found the power that exists in the space between the thoughts. You are no longer waiting for the storm to pass. You have become the sky dot starving the ego, while feeding the soul is the spiritual pivot that turns a painful breakup into a powerful breakthrough. We have to understand that when a man hurts you, or when a relationship becomes a cycle of pursuit and neglect, there is a specific energetic food that keeps that toxicity alive. That food is your reactive energy. The ego, both yours and his, thrives on the drama, the back and forth, the I can't believe he did this, and the wait until I tell him how I feel. Even when you are in no contact, if you are sitting in your room obsessing over his social media or rehearsing the conversation where you finally win the argument, you are still feeding his ego. You are sending out a frequency of I am still anchored to you, and on a subconscious level, he can feel that tether. He feels safe in his distance because he knows he still occupies the real estate of your mind. To go beyond the mere tactic of silence, you must intentionally cut off the supply. You must decide that he is no longer worthy of being the main character in your internal monologue. Starving his ego means you stop giving him the satisfaction of your reaction, not just externally, but internally. You stop the mental ping pong where you justify your worth to a phantom version of him. This is where the shift to feeding your soul begins. Instead of asking, why did he do this? You start asking, what does my soul need right now to feel whole? You redirect that massive amount of investigative and emotional energy back into your own garden. Feeding the soul is about returning to the things that make you feel divine, capable, and alive. It's about the books you stopped reading, the hobbies you dropped to make time for him, and the spiritual practices that once made you feel unshakable. When you feed your soul, your vibration naturally rises. You move from the low-frequency basement of resentment and longing into the penthouse of self-actualization. This creates a profound energetic vacuum because he is used to the constant stream of your concern or your hurt. The sudden cessation of that energy feels like a drop in temperature. He looks for the warmth of your attention and finds only a cold, empty space. This is when a man truly begins to feel the weight of what he lost. He isn't just losing a girlfriend, he is losing a source of life force. But by the time he realizes the cupboard is bare, you are already feast deep in your own fulfillment. You are no longer available for his ego strokes because your soul is already full. You've realized that you were trying to quench your thirst at a dry well, and you finally found the spring within yourself. This is the ultimate unforgettable move. People don't remember what you said as much as they remember the weight of your absence. When you feed your soul, your absence carries the weight of a queen who has left the building to attend to her own kingdom. You are no longer a satellite, you are the sun. You are teaching him and yourself that your energy is a high-priced commodity that cannot be bought with breadcrumbs. You have moved from a state of hunger to a state of harvest. This is how you reclaim your power. You aren't just not talking to him. You are no longer speaking the same language. You have entered a realm where his neglect is irrelevant because your self-love is absolute. You are finally whole, and that wholeness is a light that no darkness can extinguish. The shift from being a participant in your own heartbreak to becoming a conscious observer of the lesson is the psychological breakthrough that finally dissolves the glue of an unhealthy attachment. When we are in the thick of a breakup or a period of being ignored, we are participants. We are in the trenches of the emotion, feeling every sting of rejection, every surge of anxiety, and every impulse to reach out. As a participant, your perspective is narrow, you can only see the wound, and you are constantly reacting to the perceived threat of his absence. You are like an actor on a stage who is so lost in the tragedy of the script that they've forgotten there is a director, a scriptwriter, and an audience. Moving into the observer effect means you step off the stage and sit in the front row of your own life. You start to look at the relationship not as a personal failure, but as a spiritual case study. Instead of asking, how could he do this to me? You start asking, what is this situation trying to show me about my own boundaries, my own patterns, and my own needs? This shift in perspective is incredibly powerful because it immediately lowers the emotional temperature. An observer doesn't panic. An observer collects data. When you observe his silence, you don't see a lack in yourself. You see a limitation in him. When you observe your own urge to text him, you don't judge it. You simply note, there is a part of me that is still seeking safety in a place that proved to be unsafe. This detachment creates an energetic cooling that the other person can intuitively sense. When you are a participant, your energy is hot, jagged, and reaching toward them. When you are an observer, your energy becomes cool, smooth, and self-contained. This change in your energetic signature is what creates a vacuum he can finally feel. As long as you are participating in the pain, you are still there with him in the mud. But the moment you become the observer, you have mentally and spiritually left the field. He looks for the familiar tug of your hurt or your hope, but he finds only a calm, analytical space. It is deeply unsettling for someone who is used to your emotional reactions to suddenly find that you are looking at them with the same curiosity one might have for a weather pattern or a distant star. You are no longer available to be hurt because you are too busy learning. This is how you go beyond no contact. You aren't just avoiding him, you are out studying the situation. You begin to see the loops you were stuck in, the ways you compromised your truth to keep his peace, or the ways you accepted breadcrumbs because you were starving for a loaf. The observer effect allows you to transform the shrapnel of the relationship into wisdom. You realize that the relationship wasn't a destination, it was a classroom. And once you have learned the lesson, the classroom is no longer necessary. This is the ultimate form of unforgettable strength. A man might forget a woman who cried for him, but he will never forget the woman who looked at the end of their story with such profound clarity and grace that it seems she had already moved into a different dimension. You are no longer a victim of the plot. You are the master of the theme. You have realized that the pain was just a pointer, directing you back to the parts of yourself that needed your own attention. You are finally seeing the big picture, and in that picture, he is no longer the center, you are. You have found the peace that comes from knowing that nothing that is truly yours can ever be lost, and everything that left was just a teacher for the person you are becoming. You are clear, you are calm, and you are finally in command of your own narrative. Becoming an untraceable soul is the ultimate stage of healing because it marks the transition from performing your recovery to actually living it. We live in an era of performative healing where the temptation is to use no contact as a stage. We post the gym photos, the travel stories, and the quotes about knowing your worth, all while subconsciously hoping that he is watching. We want him to see that we are doing better without him. We want him to see the glow up, the smile, and the new life. But as long as you are doing those things to be seen, you are still spiritually tethered to his gaze. You are still an available energy in his world because you are still performing for an audience of one. The ego wants to be noticed, but the soul wants to be free. An untraceable soul is someone who has moved beyond the need for their progress to be witnessed by the person who hurt them. You stop posting for his reaction and start living for your own satisfaction. This shift creates a profound psychological mystery. When a man can no longer trace your emotional state, when he can't tell if you're angry, sad, or thriving, he loses his map of you. He is left with a version of you that is frozen in time, while the real you is evolving at a speed he cannot track. This is what makes a woman truly unforgettable. It isn't the noise you make, it's the quiet, solid wall of your absence that his mind eventually crashes against. He starts to wonder, where did she go? Who is she talking to? Does she even think of me? But because you have become untraceable, there are no answers for him. You have moved your life into a private frequency. This untraceability is not about being secretive or playing games. It is about the sacredness of your own process. You realize that your growth is too precious to be used as a weapon of spite. When you work on yourself to be whole, rather than to be seen, your energy changes from seeking to containing. You become a closed loop of self-validation. You find that the validation you were seeking from his view or his like is actually found in the quiet moments of your own morning routine, your own career wins, and your own laughter with friends who actually see you. This is the beyond in no contact. You aren't just avoiding his phone number, you are avoiding the vibration of needing him to know you're okay. The version of you that he left is the only version he is allowed to keep in his memory. He is not entitled to the upgrade. By becoming untraceable, you are protecting the new seeds you are planting in your life. You are giving yourself the grace of a private spring. This creates a vacuum of information that the human brain, especially the ego-driven brain, cannot tolerate. He will try to solve the mystery of your silence, but he will find that the door is not just locked, the house is gone. You have relocated your spirit to a higher altitude. You are no longer a target for his breadcrumbs or his late-night "I miss you" texts because you aren't there to receive them. You have become a ghost to his dysfunction and a goddess to your own destiny. You are finally realizing that the greatest glow-up isn't the one he sees on a screen, but the one you feel in your bones when you realize you haven't thought about him in 3 days. You are untraceable, unbothered, and utterly free. You have found the power of being your own secret. You are whole. The law of energetic exchange is the final and most liberating threshold of your transformation because it shifts your focus from the external pursuit of being remembered to the internal mastery of being aligned. In every relationship, there is a subtle flow of energy, a currency of attention, emotion, and intention that moves between two people. When someone ignores you or devalues you, they are essentially withdrawing their deposit from that exchange while expecting you to keep funding the account. We often think that by doubling down on our efforts, by staying in no contact with a heavy heart, or by trying to prove our worth through our silence, we are somehow winning the exchange. But the law of energetic exchange teaches us that the only way to truly become unforgettable is to become so deeply rooted in your own divine purpose that you no longer have a need to be remembered by the person who couldn't see you. This is the ultimate paradox of the soul. The moment you stop caring if he forgets you is the exact moment you become a permanent, haunting fixture in his subconscious. When you are aligned with your own purpose, your energy is no longer leaking in his direction. Or you are no longer sending out the low-frequency signals of, "I hope he notices I'm gone," or "I hope he regrets what he did." Instead, you are vibrating at the frequency of your own destiny. You are focused on your career, your health, your spirituality, and the people who actually pour into you. This alignment creates a closed circuit of power within you. To the person who left or ignored you, this feels like a sudden and total blackout. They are used to the Wi-Fi of your attention always being on, even if the signal was weak. When you align with yourself, you change the password. You move into a realm where their opinion of you is no longer a factor in your happiness. This is the only state of being that is truly unforgettable, because it is a state of being that is rare. Most people stay entangled in the ghosts of their past, but a person who has truly moved on, who has genuinely reclaimed their light, is a phenomenon that the ego cannot ignore. By practicing this law, you realize that your energy is your most sacred asset. You stop spending it on people who have a zero balance of respect for you. You start investing it in the version of you that is yet to be born. This is the beyond in no contact. You aren't just avoiding a phone call, you are avoiding a vibration. You are recognizing that to be unforgettable to someone who didn't value you is actually a small, cheap prize. The real prize is becoming unshakable to yourself. You move from the scarcity of wanting him to remember you to the abundance of knowing that you are a once-in-a-lifetime experience. This shift in frequency is what ultimately creates the vacuum that pulls them toward you, but by the time they arrive, you have already moved to a higher floor. You have realized that the only memory that matters is the one you have of your own strength. You are no longer a character in his story, you are the author of a masterpiece that he no longer has the clearance to read. You have traded the hope of his return for the certainty of your own worth. You are finally aligned, you are finally at peace, and you are finally unforgettable because you have forgotten to care about anyone who didn't care for you. You are free.